Good morning to all those that are present here, and to all those that are around the globe on the live stream. My name is Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg, director of the Daf platform. Thanks to Rabbi Sanya, to Rabbi Moshe Ratberg, and his Tehillah for opening up their shul and providing a wonderful breakfast for the סיום this morning. Special thank you to Rabbi Yonatan Schlesinger, for taking care of everything that has to be taken care of from the shul's end. Yes, it's sad. On behalf of the OU's leadership, Rabbi Moshe being president, Rabbi Moshe Hauer, Rabbi Dr. Josh Joseph, I'd all like to thank the hosting shul for hosting this wonderful סיום. The Daf platform is dedicated to the Nishmas Meir Ben Reb Chaim Wakmin, who was a special person. He was a Micah Rabbana who lived in Morocco, and he passed away sadly during the coronavirus. And the סיום is dedicated by the Goldberg family to the Nishmas Yitzchak Isaac Zal Ben Harav Eliezer, Mr. Elliot Goldberg. A person who endured many hardships in his life, but always with a smile and a happy person. People ask, why is Daf making a סיום? Who's Daf? Daf is just a platform that you come on, click, learn, a few minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes, and you leave. Why is Daf making a סיום? So I'm just going to read one email that I got this week, and that explains the connection that many people have to the Mahidei shiur and all those that take their time and effort to prepare and put the shiurim on the platform. We get many of these weekly, but this one was directed to Rabbi Schwartzberg, who's here now. Welcome, Rabbi Schwartzberg. So I'm going to read this email. It comes from London in the UK. Dear Rabbi Schwartzberg, I wanted to reach out to let you know the impact you've had on my life. My name is, I'll leave his name out, and I live in London, UK. I turned 40 years old in March this year. I've al Shuva since 15, so I'm from a wink and a smile. This February, I took my eldest son to the סיום Hashas. I guess, yeah, סיום Hashas in February. Until then, I always said, tomorrow, not for me, or maybe next year. I did everything to avoid it. I put it off, I came up with excuses. It could easily have gone a lifetime, not being any wiser. At the סיום this year, I got so inspired that I changed the narrative in my mind. From saying, not me, I gained the strength to say, why not me? I wanted to tell you that since February, I've learned brachas for the first time, I've learned Shabbos for the first time. This week, I've gone through Eruvin for the first time. You're never too old to do something for the first time in your life. I wanted to tell you that I listen to your shiur daily as Rabbi Schwartzberg. I'm just amazed at how well you teach and how well you understand. I go over each shiur and write notes. I just wanted to thank you for what you do in helping people like me get closer to Hashem's Torah. If you ever make it to London, Rabbi Schwartzberg, I'd be more than happy to show you how I love this city and have a whiskey or two. Best and good Shabbos. So that's why we're making this סיום, to connect all these people around the world. It's my covet and honor to have the opportunity to introduce Rabbi Yishai Dane, who actually gives the daily halacha shiur on the Daf app, to be the master of ceremonies. Thank you.
So many of colleagues so really owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to Rabbi Shloimy for all that he's done in putting together the Daf app and everything he does to keep it up. We all wish you much hatzlacha going further and all your other endeavors, and Baruch Baruch Hu should bench you with much nafas and parnasa and everything else. I'd like to wish a tremendous mazel tov to everyone who finished Eruvin. It's a tremendous feat. I know for myself personally, this is one of the first times I really cracked open an Eruvin and looked at it seriously. And it was transformative for me, being able to learn these new concepts, these new halachas that I never really had to look through very well. And it opened up so much for me. But I think beyond the halachas, the sugyas, the topics that I got to learn new, there's a certain message that perhaps certain ideas that we learned in Eruvin we're trying to convey. You see, we all live in a world, we're engaged with the world beyond us. We interact with so many people, different types of people, different walks of life. And some people may be doing that, they look for the good that they're able to incorporate, but there's an inherent risk. There's a risk. You're exposed to different ideas, different perspectives, different attitudes, different lifestyles. They may not be consistent with our hashkaf, maybe antithetical to our value system. So how do we survive? How do we go through our week exposed to such ideas without losing sight of what's truly important? That's why we have Shabbos. We have one day a week that we're able to stay at home, we're able to reconnect with our family, we're able to learn, we're able to reconnect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're able to focus on that which is important, and through that, we are able to go through the week with the correct hashkafas, maintaining our level of kedusha and yiras shamayim. There are certain halachas of Shabbos that we learned in Eruvin that really convey this idea of bringing that home. There's the halachas of Hilchas Tchumen. You're not supposed to travel too far away from your home. You're supposed to stay at home. There's the halacha of tiltul and chaitzah. You're not allowed to carry them. Meshech Chochmah explains this halacha that you shouldn't carry, you shouldn't be able to interact. It's really trying to inhibit your ability to interact with others, to socialize. You can't carry, it's very hard to socialize under such circumstances. Again, trying to convey this idea. Use Shabbos as your anchor. Use that one day a week that you're able to reconnect with your family, reconnect to what's truly important. That will let you go through the week with the proper perspective. However, I think that someone could come to a misconception about this and think that really you should stay at home. Really you should only focus with your family, not interact with anyone else. The Gemara in Eruvin told us about Shlomo HaMelech that he was Misaki and Eruv Chatzeres. The Gemara says that Kosh Baruch Hu is Misameach, it was a great simcha when Shlomo HaMelech instituted the concept of Eruv Chatzeres. And that is because, although it's obviously incredibly important to stay at home with your family, to reconnect with your family, reconnect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu as an individual, but in order to enhance that anchor of Shabbos, you have to connect with other like-minded people. Misha Erev Be'eruv doesn't work with the Eruv Chatzeres. Reconnect with like-minded people, have an Eruv of Pas, have one piece of bread, set it aside, and that's what everyone within the community is able to join to be together to really be part of one family. And that through that connection, that's the best way to be able to go through your week and maintain your level of kedusha and the correct perspective. I think for so many people, learning Daf Yomi every day is that anchor as well. You're able to spend the 8 minutes, 20 minutes, hour, 2 hours a day, whatever you're able to spend learning, that's your anchor. That's what's able to make you go through the day. Many people are able to be listening to the Parnasa throughout the day and forget that it ends to a goal. Through learning every day, through learning the Daf Yomi, you're able to reconnect and maintain the correct perspective. I think that all Daf manages to be that Eruv Chatzeres. It managed to be the platform that's able to bind together different people, different levels, different backgrounds, and everyone's able to find something within that one platform, within that one bias, that path, that talks to them, that works for them. But we're all bound together. And through that being bound together, that really enables us all as a community, because Torah is the equalizer. Torah is what brings everyone together. And through that connection of different people from different backgrounds, that's the best way for all of us as a community, as Klal Yisrael, to be able to maintain the correct perspective and continue on throughout the day appropriately. One of the tremendous Magid this year, all out has many Magid this year, barring myself. One of the most I appreciate listening to is Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg. His ability to convey the most complex, complicated ideas is so clear, seemingly effortless. Just a pleasure to listen to. And tremendous coverage for me to be able to introduce Shloimy Schwartzberg to be able to be Messiah in Mesechus Eruvin.
I want to express my appreciation to the owner for their magnificent shiurim and complimentary material. Makes learning Daf Yomi such an exhilarating experience. It has transformed my day and transformed my Seder home. And I want to say that learning Daf Yomi for the first time, entering this whole world where every receptor is a citizen. But I can't say that I've become a citizen, and no longer do I feel like a stranger. I recognize the key landmarks and can refer to it in day-to-day conversation. And for that, I am eternally grateful. Kol hakavod, chazak ve'amatz, and thank you for what you do for Klal Yisrael.
Thank you so much. Eruvin for those words. The sentiments I definitely agree with regarding Old Daf, regarding the Eruvin Chatzeris, regarding about learning Torah together. I'm just going to be Messiah. We have many speakers, Baruch Hashem, and we're going to do what we do best. We're going to learn Torah together. We're going to learn the last part of Mesechta Eruvin, with the last Mishnah in this Mesechta Eruvin was discussing, as Taisus tells us, the last theme of the Mikdash of Alei Medina, certain leniencies we have in the holy place versus out of the Beis Hamikdash. The Mishnah was discussing regarding finding a sheretz in the Beis Hamikdash, although it's muktzei nala to move a sheretz. However, in the Beis Hamikdash that was allowed. And then the Mishnah ends off with a line from Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg, which almost seems like it doesn't have any place over here. Shimon says, the place where the sages permitted you, mishalcha nasnilcha. It was from yours that they gave it to you, because they only permitted to you because of rabbinic prohibition. So the Gemara asks, Rabbi Shimon, where's Rabbi Shimon going? These words don't seem to apply at all regarding that of finding a sheretz in the Beis Hamikdash. That has nothing to do with what's yours is yours, and they only permitted you because of rabbinic prohibition. Says the Gemara Hasam Kai, it's going over there that's not, we learned the Mishnah Daf Yomi. Mishnah tells us, Misha Hechsha Chutlakum. It's a previous Mishnah. Discussing the second wise, Rabbi Shimon discussing a Mishnah on Daf Yomi. Someone spent Shabbos. When Shabbos started, he was out of the Tchum. Even by 1 amma, he can't enter. He's not part of the Tchum of the city. Shimon Omer, he says, even if he's 15 ammas out of the Tchum, he can't come in. Why? Because those who measure the Tchumim, when they make that line of that where the Tchum is, they're not mematzin das amidus. They don't not precise with the measurements. Why? I mean, I'll tell you. So Rashi gives two interpretations. What does it mean because of the error? Either because it's those who actually make the measurements, the professionals, they make a certain mistake because they make it a little bit too short, or it means because of actually those who are, they know exactly what, but those who are traveling on Shabbos, they're going to make a mistake and they're not going to realize that they went too far and they're going to come back in and they really went out of the Chum and came back in. So because of that, they leave that margin of error. But the truth is that when you're 15 amos out of the Chum, you're really in the Chum. And that is what he's explaining here in our Mishnah. The Kamer Tanakh, he calls this at the first time I said, you're not allowed to enter. Normally, Shimon Yikonish, and Shimon says in the Brisa, and that's what we're discussing, that you could go back in. Because Mishalcha Nasmacha, what it means to say is that you're already in your Tchum. And here Shimon's coming to explain his reason to tell you, don't think that I'm being lenient regarding the Yisurim of Shabbos and I'm a Mekel. I'm letting you, even though you're 15 hours out of Tchum, come back in. No, it's yours that we're giving you. Because it's really within the Tchum, so I'm not being lenient. And the Gemara is going to shortly explain, so why is it over here? The second half of this phrase also seems like it doesn't have a place. The Mishnah had said that it didn't permit you only because of rabbinic prohibition. That wouldn't be going on Tchum. What is that permissibility because of Shlos? It's because it's within the Tchum. Says the Gemara, where's that second half of this phrase going on? Says the Gemara Hasim, this is going on a previous Mishnah, very near Navkov Beis and the Beis. The Tanakhama had said that Kaisha, regarding if the string of a harp tears, so then the Tanakhama says you could make a knot. That Rav Shimon disagreed, but Amalei Shimon said in the Brisa, no only you could only tie a bow. Over here in our Mishnah is where he's coming to explain the reasoning why he disagrees with that Tana, and he says no, because the only thing that's permitted in the Beis Hamikdash was the shvus, was rabbinic isser. And neither tying a bow delay also the chatas, which cannot come to liability of chatas, even if you made it permanent, because it's just a bow. Shor the Rabbanan, that Rabbanan permitted you to do in the Beis Hamikdash. Shira, but tying a knot. The also the chatas that could come to a liability of chatas if you did it out of the Beis Hamikdash, where there's no hefsha mitzvah. Tying a string on a harp is not doing a mitzvah. You could violate a chiv da'iraisa to be chayv chatas. But Shor the Rabbanan, that Rabbanan did not permit you even in the Beis Hamikdash as a gezerim, because you might make a keshesh on kayam and be chayv a chiv da'iraisa. They only let you by a rabbinic isser. So Rashi tells us essentially Rabbi Shimon was disagreeing on 2 points on the Tanakhama. First of all, the first halacha was disagreeing regarding if someone starts Shabbos out of the Tchum, and the second half of the statement was a different halacha regarding the string of a harp. Rabbi Shimon was telling Tanakhama, although that I'm being lenient by someone who starts Shabbos out of the Tchum, and I'm being stringent seemingly by tying the string of the harp, so I seem to be contradictory. Am I lenient by the Hilchah Shabbos? Am I stringent? So it's not a contradiction. Because over there by the Tchum, I'm not being lenient. It's really within the Tchum. But over here, there's only a rabbinic prohibition that was permitted, and therefore, I'm only allowing it to be a bow and not a knot. And that's what Taisa explains, that what's the why Rabbi Shimon over here, not in the Mishnah on Daf Beis, because if you notice the theme of the previous Mishnahs, they were all talking about that b'mikdash yitira b'olei b'medina. And he waited till he finished all the mikdash yitira b'olei b'medina, and then he says, regarding that you had said in the previous Mishnah, one of the things that you believe regarding the mikdash, you can tie a knot, it's not true. You can tie a bow. And then you're going to ask, but I seem to be contradicting myself. Here I'm being stringent, and there I'm being lenient. It's not true. It's mishlacha, naslacha, from yours that they gave it to you. I just want to point out a deeper understanding in this final Gemara Masechta Eruvin. We're talking about tchumen. We're talking about a person's limitations, how far they can go. Rabbi Shimon is telling us a very important key that I think many people discovered when they learned Masechta Eruvin with the Daf Yomi, with all Daf, is that although there seems to be a tchum, a limitation how far you can go, Rabbi Shimon tells you, Mishalcha nastumach. It's from yours that you're given to you. Many people extended themselves for this Masechta, and I think they surprised themselves what they achieved. It was Mishalcha nastumach, because you extended yourself. That's why you got it. It looked like the tchum was over, but yet you kept on going, another yard, and it keeps on going. Mishalcha nasmach. Rabbi Shloimy rewards you for what you put in to learning Torah. Torah does more for you what you invest into Torah. Hanulach hametzei tefillin. I shall return to you the 10 parak in Masechta Eruvin, parak hametzei tefillin. I know we have to return because many people have told me, am I going to the Sim? But the Ruv doing Kalzich Necheskel says, yes, because you can make the Siyum, because Me'irei Seinayim, you learn Torah, don't get discouraged, continue learning one time, another time, Hadin Allah. We're going to return to Havayit Tzom, the next Seder Mitzvah Hashem, which spoke about the Malacha of Tzom, that opinion, certain leniencies, as we mentioned, regarding doing shlusim in the Beis Hamikdash, for Slikula Masechta Eruvin. We have concluded Masechta Eruvin. Now, it would be remiss if we didn't say Eruvin what it means to say. Eruvin, like we heard from Chabad, is Eruv, of coming together, of joining together. Kol Yisrael Reading Zelazeh. Now, this old daf is being telecasted across the world, as we heard. There's people incredible. We have over here someone that's being assigned from our shul, 12 years old, Masechta Eruvin, who could imagine? We have older people, I don't say old here in the shul, but there's elderly people, Hasidim, Litvish, Svardim, just in this shul, across the world with all that is incredible. And we appreciate everyone who's joining us in this incredible journey. Of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't thank our corporate sponsors, Torah Anytime, who telecast this all over the world, Old Daf, who puts up my toys show. We have the other Shem, we have Daf Achaim, Chaim Shmuel Friedman, Chesky Kaftal, and of course, Yonison Schlesinger, who I'm not going to say his name, but I'm going to say him for the world from here. We have the Chasadim every day for this shul and for this shiur. It's incredible how we got the shiur off the ground and all the things he continues to do. Dudi Knoll, who puts together the PDS, Mamish Shalai. We thank you very, very much. A great professor. Penny, who does everything, and just Taich, whatever, he also uploads everything and also helps set up this whole setup, and he's going to start doing this every day. We're going to start very soon. So again, this Ashayesh Neplay, Ashayen Neplay. We know there's many people learning with us all over the world. We really appreciate everyone who's joining us, and this is a time when the person wants to be mechazik themselves. If you were able to learn Eruvin, and even if you didn't, to join us for Masechta Pesachim, as everyone knows, they're advertising. You could finish Masechta Pesachim by the time it comes for Pesach. We really love to have you join us because it's really fun to learn Torah. It really gets your day started the right way. Hanulav Masechta Eruvin B'Had V'Chalan. We shall return to you, Masechta Eruvin B'Had V'Chalan, and you return to us. Dainalav Masechta Eruvin. Our thoughts are with you, Masechta Eruvin, B'Dai V'Chalan, and your thoughts are with us. When listening to Masechta Eruvin, do not remove yourself from us, Masechta Eruvin, and we will not remove from you. Not in this world, not in the world to come. Hanulav Masechta Eruvin B'Had V'Chalan, Dainalav Masechta Eruvin, B'Dai V'Chalan, Masechta Eruvin, May it be the will, Hashem our God, the God of our Father, Let the Torah be our profession, our craft in this world. We're saying, let it be our profession in the world to come. And here it mentions the 10 sons of Papa because he made a Siyum. That's one of the interpretations. We're beautiful Siyum over here that we're doing over here today. Chanim Papa, Ram Papa, Nam Papa, Choy Papa, Amar Papa, Ram Papa, Rochi Papa, Zok Papa, Ana Papa, Nama Papa. Hashem, please make the words of Torah sweet in our mouths. In the mouths of the Jewish people. And all of us, our children, the children of all the Jewish people, we shall all know your name, and learn your Torah. From my enemies, I should become smart, which we do over here. Amazing. We take technology and it's such our butts at Torah anytime. All Daf, incredible what's being done across the world. And like Rabbi Shloimy said, this is nothing. It's a drop in the bucket, the feedback that we get from all over the world, from people learning Torah, mitzvah secha, your mitzvahs, it's always for me. Let my heart be whole in your statutes, I will not be embarrassed. I will never forget your commandments, it's something because it gives me life. Bless you, Hashem, you teach us your statutes. Amen, 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 celebrate. Will have the same. We have to give thanks to Hashem. You place our portion in those who sit in Beis Medrash. Many people who are now Yesh Beis Medrash never thought they would be. Many people, Rabbi Robert came and said testimony. They've learned in years. They're learning there from the Yesh Beis Medrash. They're not embarrassed to come to shul. They're proud and they're learning Torah. It's incredible. You didn't make our portion of those who sit in the corner. We get up early and they get up early. We get up to learn words of Torah. And they get up to words of vain. Now, I want to point out something. We're saying the Siyum in a plural. Here it makes sense because we're making a plural Siyum. Why, whenever you make a Siyum, do you say the plurality? I believe the reason is because you're not making the Siyum by yourself. Who are you making the Siyum with? With your wives. The women are anu mashkim and mehem mashkimim. They get up, they take care of the kids, whether it be morning or night. It's incredible what they do. Shaliva shalachem shalahi. I have to say, my wife Meryl, she does everything for me. And people say, what is Shloimy doing this? What's God for? Right? Is it the land? Baruch Hashem, the Eishes Chai. I think many people are smiling here knowing what the wives do for them so that they can learn Torah, wherever it is. Many people are watching on Old Up and they know they watch it at work, in their bedroom, wherever it is, but your wife is taking care of things that help you. You're not making the Siyum yourself. The Siyum is being done together with your Eishes Chai. We work and they toil. We work and we get reward. They don't get reward for the toil, it's for the product itself. We run and they run. We're running to the life of the world to come. They're running to the pit of destruction. Somebody says in the pasuk, you God, you take them down to the pit of destruction. Men of blood and of deceit. They don't live about half their lives, but I trust in you. May be the will. You helped us, just like you helped us to finish the Eruvin, to start other Mesechtas, other Svarim, not just Talmud Bavli, all of the Svarim. To complete them, to learn, to teach, Lishmar, to keep, Velazis, and to do Lakaims, cultivate some of this. All the words of your Torah with love. The merit of all the Tanoim, in the Mishnayos and the Brayos, and Amayrom, the Talmidei Chachamim, Yamad Lonu Zarenu should stand for us and for our children. The words of Torah should never be removed from our mouth. This is going to be it should be fulfilled in us. When you go, it'll guide you. When you lay down, it'll safeguard you. When you get up, it will be the words in your mouth. Because through me, says the Torah, your days will be lengthened, will be increased, the years of your life. Lengthy days in its right hand, in its left hand will be wealth and honor. God give strength to the people. Hashem will bless the people with peace.
Shmei Dabo.
Vasilis Khadatola, Yomi Sayu, Masoki, Yosin Lachayomo. Well, the Nivni cards, the Shlimashaklo, the Echlibigabe, the Mekabahon, the Promenado. Last of the Bocham, the Shmaila, so they are which we about the Mahus of the Kare. It's not going to never get them. She can. Kaye, the Yomi, the kind of a basis, the Bag, the law is not going to even know him.
I've been using the old Daf website past number of months since I started doing the Daf. I can't recommend students and viewers and viewers everything. And also
I'd like to thank Hauser for Yeshesko for so graciously hosting the סיום. I'd like to call up the Marda Asra, Rabbi Shloimy, who's known throughout Palm River, throughout Lakewood, for being a tremendous Talmid Chacham, for being tremendously dedicated to his community, and the community at large, to covet Rabbi Shloimy.
First of all, Mazel Tov to all the Messiahim, and many of the sentiments have been said already on a personal level. When we embarked on this, many doubted how successful this will be, but never ever doubt the committed group, Rabbi Shloimy, who's been my chavrusa and dear friend at the time we were 15 years old, till today. We came up with this idea. People thought that this would just never happen. The way it happened is incredible. And Ashrechem to all the Messiah. The Chofetz Chaim has a beautiful word and talks about. We said in the סיום now, for many people you've been saying words, Rabbi Shloimy just touched it for us. Anu amelim, lehem amelim, anu amelim mekabel tzchak. Why is that true? We work and we get tzchak, and other people don't? Who said that? Chofetz Chaim has a mashal which is incredible, which every single person who does Daf Yomi needs to understand this mashal. Zot the Chofetz Chaim. There's once a fellow who was a shoemaker. He made shoes. It's not easy to make shoes. Take the leather, have to work the leather, cut the leather, sew the leather. And there was a younger person who decided, he opened up a business in town, and he too was making shoes. And someone came to the Chofetz Chaim and said, should I use the new shoemaker or should I use the older shoemaker? He said, listen, older person needs parnasa. Don't make him lose his parnasa. So he went to him and he goes to the shoemaker, and every week he comes back to him, are my shoes ready? He says, no. Another week. After a long period of time, he tells him the shoes are ready. He comes to pick up the shoes. He looks at the shoes. They're crooked. They're missized. They're misshaped. And the shoemaker gives him a price, an exorbitant price, 10 times as much as a regular pair of shoes. He turns to the shoemaker and says, how could you charge me so much money? So he tells him, you don't understand. He says, a young shoemaker, he's agile. He's young. He just cuts the leather. I can't see well. You know how hard it is for me to cut it to size?
Sewing it is difficult for the young shoemaker. It's easy. Do you know how much work went into my pair of shoes? 10 times as much as this young shoemaker. Comes back to the Chavetz Chaim, says, Rebbe, do I have to pay for that? He says, no. You don't have to pay for his amelis. You don't have to pay for how hard it is to him to produce the product. You pay for the product. Not so is it when it comes to learning. How many people throughout Eruvin have said this is difficult? How many people said this is a struggle? How many people are wondering, did I really understand every blot? Doesn't matter. Onu amelim v'heim amelim, onu amelim v'mekabel schar. I got it to Gemara in Brachas. Versus the shredded daf in Eruvin. It's the amelis when we try hard. And that's what it's about. The incredible part of this Siyum, of Eruvin. Now we talk about society has been a shtetla. Little confined cities, little places, little areas, been yeshivas. And now we're in a world where we're all over. The exposure to the entire world. The biggest malacha we talk about in Shabbos is Haitzah. I don't know if anybody notices, but Haitzah is spoken about again and again and again throughout Shabbos. Most of Shabbos, the malacha spoken about most is Haitzah. One malacha grua. We come to Eruvin, a whole Masechta based around the malacha of Haitzah. Maybe it's sending us a message that when we're in the confines of our home, things are very simple. When we're in a yeshiva, we're in a shtetl, we're in a shul, things are easy. You start going out to the Rishus Harabin. You start heading out. And the Chazal tell us, make a lechi v'koira. Make a hecker. Remember that that's the Rishus Harabin. Remember where you really belong. Remember what your confines really are. And this is something that we go through. It's either a hecker or a mechitza. One or the other. But it's got to be something. Remember before you go out and you venture out to Rishus Harabin. When you go out to work. When you do business, are you going to be erlich? Remember you need a lechi v'koira. We go on through the Eruvin. These halachos of Eruvin chatzeris. There are different walks of life. Look at just this kehila. People ask me, what type of kehila is it? It's the biggest joke. It's all types. And it's okay. Sometimes you need to make a Erev Chatzeres though. We come around people who may not think the way we think, who look the way we think. We can never lose that. We have to be able to maintain that. And what do? We make an Erev Chatzeres. We make an Erev Chatzeres, we do something which connects everybody. And as the world goes on, Shalei Tishkach, Toiras Erev, that we don't want the children to forget. We may be busy with work. We may be busy with so many distractions. But we're never ever going to forget. And sometimes we need to go chutz l'tchum also. Sometimes we need to go places where we didn't want to go. And the answer is make an Erev Tchum and stay grounded. Stay grounded where you're supposed to be. Expand your horizons. But be sure that you're grounded in your Makom Shvisa. This incredible parts that we find in Eruvin. And this is Limud HaTorah today. It's an incredible thing that comes in the morning. Zecher to learn here in the Beis Medrash, first Seder. To see people from this community, and not here, all over the world, this is being copied. Muttering over a blot, which it changes their life. It bothers them if they don't have it clear. I want to tell you, every single person this is negated to. But in our Kehillah we have the schus of having someone like Shulam Lemmer. I want to tell you about Shulam Lemmer. It's not a question of whether he sings. He's not a bad singer. The Shulam Lemmer is here every single morning muttering over a blot. And I want to tell you, Mordecai Meister tells me he was doing some rehearsal for some event, and it was an hour and a half break. And he told me I was sitting there thinking it was a Daf Pei Beis, figuring out the mathematics and the cheshbonis. Didn't learn that in school. 3 point, right? trying to figure out the mathematics again and again and again. And he came back and he said, I sat for an hour and a half trying to figure out the blocks. Nicht gegangen, I tried my best. I came back, I just listened to the shiur, I listened to Rabbi Shloimy, I just went on. He had a defeated look. Oh no, I'm mailing the him, I'm mailing. By a rehearsal, people could do whatever they want. People could be doing things to get lost in the world. You sat there working on the paydays in Eruvin. Mikam Yisrael. You look at the shiur here. These aren't people you typically would think that these are the ones these are the Daf Yomi Yidin. Everyone's a Daf Yomi Yid. And it's something that we need to connect as we go through life, as we go through the distractions of life, we go through the different temptations of life, the distortions of life, and we need to stay grounded. And anybody who learns Daf Yomi can attest. The very fact that these are shiur. I know I owe Daf Yomi. I owe Eruvin 8 block. I owe Shabbos 2 block and Brachas 3 block. I'm about chayv to Daf Yomi. That's responsibility. That's his chayvus. No matter what happens, we're grounded. We're here. And to have a platform like All Daf, I always knew that there's not a Yid in Klal Yisrael that doesn't have to thank the OU for what goes into their mouth. It's not a Yid in Klal Yisrael. It's impossible to be a Frum Yid and not to have had Toivas Hana from OU. To think that whatever goes into your ears, also you need to thank OU, that's a whole nother level. That's something I never knew. And all the partners that are here, and all those that, I'm not even mentioning names because I don't know them. Our first time meeting, Rabbi Shloimy. And I know Rabbi Shloimy. I know Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg. And I know that everything that he's done. And I know the Torah any times of the world. And every Maggid shiur, everyone in their little corner, if it's 2 people, it's 3 people, you're part of making Klal Yisrael a better place. The only reason why this works is just like we have Hatzalah members. You may have 120 Hatzalah members in a town. How many calls does each one go on? It doesn't matter. But when he's called upon, he needs to be ready. That Maggid shiur that's in the corner somewhere that has 2 Yungalayt or 2 Balabatim. We need him there. We need every single person to make the difference, to make this work. Ashrechem. Thank you, Rabbi Shloimy. Thank you, Rabbi Yonason. And thank the entire Kehila for making this happen. And Mirz Hashem, the shul, I will volunteer on behalf of Rabbi Yonason and the rest. Any siyum you want to make in this community, it's a done deal. Am I right? We're in. It's our schus, it's our honor. Chajin, come back again and again. Thank you everybody for joining, and every single person that's here, we're all committed to it. And we're Mitzvah Hashem Psachim seems going to be twice as big as Mitzvah Hashem.
What got me into Daf Yomi was just seeing how many people were inspired, how many people came through to the Sim Shas, and the stories, and just the serious nefesh that everyone had. I personally use All Daf almost every single day. I try, depending on my shift, if I'm working in the middle of the night, if I have time, I listen to Ari Leibowitz. 40-minute shiur, really encompassing. It gives a lot of information. But if I'm rushing and there's not a lot of time, Resnick's 18 minutes come very handy. It's been a constant for me, especially in these uncertain times, working crazy long shifts, to be able to learn every single thing, no matter where I am, no matter what time it is.
All Daf is a program, a subsidiary of the Orthodox Union of the OU, and one of the beloved Maggidei shiur that gives the Daf Yomi shiur on the All Daf app is Rabbi Moshe Elephant. Unfortunately, he was unable to come today, and he is the CEO of OU Kosher, he was anticipated to give a presentation regarding the OU's involvement in dealing with restarting Pesachim, so he would relate how OU kosher deals with the halachas of Pesach. But he personally requested that someone else, another chashuv Marbis Torah, Rabbi Shloimy, who some of us may be familiar with his Harbatz Torah and the halacha yomis. Many times he's involved in other areas of Harbatz Torah and Yerushalmi art school. He's also had a yad in as well. So aside from the kashrus, he's a rabbinic coordinator in the OU kosher, as well as Harbatz Torah as well. So Rabbi Elephant requested that Rabbi Shloimy take his place and make a psicha on Masechet Pesachim and share some ideas of how OU kosher deals already now with Pesach.
Yes, Eruvin Siyum, Rabbi Shloimy, to give me the opportunity to share in your Harbatz Torah of all that. The story is told that the Rabbi Kiva one time asked the Beis Ephraim Zalman Magolius from Broad to represent him at a chasana. Ephraim Zalman Magolius was a very busy person, prolific writer, businessman also on the side, Rav, Klausik. He generally went to a wedding just for a minute, said Mazel Tov, and he left. This wedding, he sat there for 4 hours. We asked him, why are you here for 4 hours? He said, I'm here representing Rabbi Kiva. Shluchei Shalom Kamoisai. As long as I'm sitting here, I'm Rabbi Kiva's agent. Rabbi say, I have the opportunity to speak on behalf of Rabbi Elephant, the CEO of OU Kosher. So if I speak for 4 hours, you'll know why. Hagdomet in the Masechet Pesachim. This is reminiscent. I remember when the Rashid Makil said a Hester on Yevshach. He was saying how Magid Shir came into Yevshach and told him he's going to be saying Shiyam Pesachim next man. And Yevshach asked him, what are you thinking of? What are you shiur like? He said, I'm still thinking, I'm still preparing, and he'll get into it that much yet. Yevshach said, Vos, when I learned Pesachim, the Bakumedik is man, ich ess Pesachim, ich trink Pesachim, ich schlaf Pesachim. I eat, drink, and sleep Pesachim. Pesachim, Pesachim, Pesachim. It's Yevshach's outlook on beginning Pesachim. How lucky we are. Says the Mishnah, night of the 14th day of Nisan, wherever chametz is not brought into, there's no need to be boidik. In fact, the Mishnah, what is then the reason why they said, the Chacham said you have to inspect the 2 rows in a wine cellar? Because that is Mokem Shemach Nisam Bechametz. The person can go down there with his loaf, with his piece of bread in his hand. Beisham understands shurais not to mean rows as much as it means levels. So Beisham learns Beishuris Apanekal Amarte, if it's coming down, the top, the uppermost portion of the barrels, extending all the way. When you have a bunch of rows of barrels, let's say 5 deep and 5 high. So you would inspect the entire, you have to climb up on top and inspect all of the top level, and then you come down to the front level and inspect the whole level going down. Kimin Gam. What Beisil says is the 2 outermost rows of wine barrels. Just the front face, the front left, the front face of the wine barrels, and the 2 top levels. Taisa already talks. Taisa introduces the sugya later. The Gemara talks about bittul chametz. Chazal tell us that we need both. We need bedika because we have to get rid of all the chametz, but sometimes you can't get rid of all the chametz. You might overlook something, so we have to be mevar. You have to nullify the chametz. Nullification alone is not enough, because you might come to find the gluska yofa. You might come to find that it's an enticing piece of pastry. It's a good babka. And you'll say, I'm putting this aside for after Pesach, and then you're going to buy your matzah. Therefore, you need to have bittul and beer. There is another eitzah. Not an eitzah chas v'sholom to circumvent bittul and beer, but to work in conjunction with bittul and beer, and that's mechiras chametz. When a person starts mechiras chametz, he goes to the Rav, and he makes the Rav his agent to sell his chametz. When the OU deals with mechiras chametz, it's on a whole different level. all Jewish-owned companies have to sell the chametz. That's not to say, if they'll keep the chametz over the whole Pesach, they'll be oivam b'ayova imatzei. That may be or may not be our concern. But the concern is on a more basic level. Chametz she'ol of Pesach is also b'hana. Chametz which spent Pesach in the rishus of a Jew is also b'hana. The OU cannot, in good conscience, allow the OU symbol to be used on products which are also b'hana. Sort of contradiction in terms. Therefore, before Chametz, before Pesach, it's a major logistical operation. Each RC is about 50 of us, has a list of Jewish-owned companies. When a company applies already, we ask them, are you Jewish-owned? It goes into the system. We send each one an email, follow-ups, with the option explaining why they have to sell the chametz, and with the option, sell it with the own rov, sell it through the OU, Rabbi Shloimy will sell it, etc. Of course, a few people will answer right away, and you have to follow up, remind them, and it goes to personal phone calls. There's a pressure, because it's time sensitive, it has to be done. I had a fellow who's resisting, my assistant sent out the emails, and I left a few messages, wasn't happening. Tracked down the person, it was a granola company. Sometimes it's Jewish owned, but it's innocuous. It's no chametz involved over there. It was a granola, it was oats, it was chametz l'mahadin. So they called the person up, and he tells me, you're making a mistake, I'm not Jewish owned. I'm not Jewish. I said, okay, so why do I have you in the system as being a Jewish owned company? He said, because my old partner was a Jew. But his partner died. His son is not Jewish, son of the times, and I have a very stereotypical Jewish name like Grossman. I mean, like a no-brainer, it has to be Jewish. He's not Jewish, but I'm not Jewish, that's it, so we're not Jewish owned. So I was talking to him, customer service, so he tells me, I'm not Jewish, but my mother was Jewish. And so I tell him, they're not getting involved in your personal life at all, but Jewish law recognizes only matrilineal descent. Look, one day Daf Yomi we get up to Irovis. That's it. You're Jewish by Jewish law. All you consider you to be Jewish. So he tells me, how can I be Jewish? I never had a bar mitzvah. I said, my dear friend, I'm sorry. It was a few years before Pesach already because it's kept on schlepping on. I said, nothing personal. It's a binary choice. 2 options, and that's it. Either you sell your chametz, or I'll be forced to terminate you. It's nothing personal, I just have no choice. Long story short, he sold his chametz. There's one other way which the OU gets ready for Pesach is to any production which will be done with bearing the OUP has to be done already, it's starting now already. These are the times that the companies are starting to make their OUP products. It has to it takes a month or so, it has to be shipped, it has to be in the stores already. For the early birds after Chodesh Adar, just about, Purim time, the latest. So, especially the distributors are already starting now. The manufacturers have a little more time. The ones in the retail, the yogurts and the orange juices, of course, those have to be sold fresh, so those are done later. But now it's already being done. But when we talk about being done, sourcing ingredients, you have in Taflin Gimel, just one example. In Taflin Gimel, Sif Aleph, the Ramah says that islander, which is understood to be coriander, and Kimmel, various types of Kimmel, felt Kimmel. This Kimmel is understood to be anise, fennel, or cumin, they're really one of the anise, fennel, and cumin are really one and the same, different variations. Those are not kidneys, says the Ramah. But the Taz and Avram both point out that because they share similarities to kidneys, in that they're grown in the wheat fields, and there's a long scientific explanation why that's true. They're a light feeder, so wheat takes a lot of nutrients out of the soil. These in crop rotation techniques, these are put back nutrients into the soil. Without getting into that, so that was true throughout the generations. They're grown in the wheat fields. They have to be cleaned very carefully, and says in Avram, therefore they shouldn't be used on Pesach, unless you can guarantee a good cleaning. Mishnah Berurah brings it down la halacha.
So for coriander and cumin specifically, right, those came up with, in conjunction with various spice companies, came up with a protocol, triple square cleaner for the coriander, for the cumin, an optical sorter. Without going into all the details, not to bore you with them, that is already being done and being sourced in India a few months ago. This company who's bringing in the shiur from India is already in contact with me personally, with the mashgichim, already a few months ago. How to make his orders, how to place those, what exactly he needs to do. Then it comes in and needs inspected by a mashgiach. Takes samples and inspect all of them, takes a sample, and etc. So by the time the OUP production starts in whatever it's going to be, a month or so, this is already the culmination of a long process. That is the active, there's two examples of the active role which the OU takes in preparing for Pesach. But in a larger sense, the OU never stops preparing for Pesach, and not in terms of preparation for Pesach, for the upcoming Pesach, but it's in terms of researching ingredients. Again, there's many of us over there. I'll just take you through my own saga with baby formula. I deal with baby formula. All baby formula is comprised of four basic components. There's the protein, the starch, the carbohydrate, the sweetener, and then there's the vitamins. Without vitamins, it can't be sold. It's not healthy. Babies need vitamins. There was a story in Germany a few years ago, not an OU certified company, by the way. Not that it makes any difference. We have nothing to do with it. They didn't put in the correct vitamins, terrible stories, terrible liability issues. Maybe died from it. Never. So the OU does not, as a rule, certify formulas as kosher Pesach, OUP. But we do put out, and our CEO, Rabbi Genak, and COO, Rabbi Elephant, take this responsibility very seriously, so that Klal Yisrael looks at us, the baby formula, we have to research each ingredient and see if we can recommend it for Pesach. OU puts out the Jewish Action before Pesach, and that edition has the page that even though it's not OUP officially certified, these are recommended for use on Pesach. So the achrayus that we feel to that is tremendous. I'll just take you through a few different things. First of all, like we said, there's a vitamin. All vitamin C is ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid comes from sorbitol. Just, by the way, anything ending with an OL is an alcohol. Sorbitol, maltitol, ethanol, and alcohol. All alcohol is fermented. It's a fermentation process coming from a sugar, a starch, sugar, glucose, sucrose, lactose, the sugar in the milk. All these are building blocks. Through a fermentation process, the sugar becomes an alcohol. So take, for example, vitamin C, ascorbic acid. It's made from sorbitol, which becomes ascorbic acid, vitamin C. Sorbitol is based on the starch, on the glucose. The glucose comes from the starch. So it's extremely difficult, sometimes impossible, to go through all of the various global food chain to isolate where was this starch, this carb, where did it come from? So in truth, big deal. It's only present in parts per million. It's bottled. Anything before Pesach or Chometz, they know Chometz also masher. If only if the Teruvas happen on Pesach, happened before Pesach, it's bottled. But it's not so simple, because the Rashba says in Shuvas, it's brought down by the Magen Avraham and Mishnah Berurah and Kaf Mem Zayin, that anything which is deliberately put into a Teruvas is not bottled. It has to be in, by government regulations, it has to be in. We could follow if that's called being part of the Teruvas, the shame of the Teruvas, like the cases that Magen Avraham gives, Mishnah Berurah, the Murayas, you're giving actual ingredient into it. It's not an ingredient, they happen to park it over here because they actually do, but we could talk about that. Maybe there is welcome to the Machalik. But upon him, we're just going to look at it has to be the Teruvas. So it's not so pushing. If it's put in, it's not going to be bottled. Having said that, there's legitimate status over here. Starch coming from the United States will be corn. It will not be wheat based on the price structures. Maltodextrin, glucose, ethanol will all be corn-based, not wheat-based. If it comes from Europe, it's about a 50-50 chance. Comes from Indonesia, it can be tapioca starch. It comes from China, it can be wheat, corn, or tapioca. It can be other things. We have legitimate suffix over here. This principle of God is Rabban. That's not bottle. Suffix Rabban L'Kula. Based on the difficulty and sometimes the near impossibility of isolating this sorbitol where it came from, we feel comfortable, our person feel comfortable ruling that this is, we can permit this for Pesach. Having said that, it's not so poshut. Glucose syrup. The glucose syrup, which is made in Europe, they take a wheat or a corn, they break it down to its various components, and it comes out to a glucose syrup. Typically, you rely on an allergen warning. You can't rely on a company per se. That's one of the components which we take into account, is that the wheat allergen cannot be present in formula, period. However, the European Union has one of its permanent exemptions to allergen warnings. One of them is glucose syrup, because it's made downstream, the gluten is separated upstream in the process, and a gluten syrup can be wheat or can be corn with no allergen concerns whatsoever. That was something which caused some bit of angst from a major nutritional company based in Europe, had to track down to make sure that we're getting that particular glucose syrup that was corn syrup for that. Just taking through, mentioning sorbitol, I'll tell you an interesting story that happened 2 years ago. There's a cold cuts, a place that makes cold cuts, Frankfurters, here in the tri-state area. They use a polysorbate 80. Polysorbate is an emulsifier. We know that oil and water doesn't mix. All the Mishal that we heard in the Cheder from the Rabbi, the Klaisel, is the oil and the water. They don't mix typically, but they do mix with an emulsifier. The emulsifier combines water and oil, and that's a polysorbate. And also, you get if your mayonnaise comes and you have like some oil on the top, and that's because they didn't use a good emulsifier. But professional company use an emulsifier, it does not separate. In this case, they used the polysorbate, and they overlooked the fact it was the Pesach run, entire OUP Pesach run, and after they made it, they realized it was the wrong polysorbate, it was not kosher Pesach. What are they to do? Tremendous hefset. So, the OU gets involved. My direct supervisor, Rabbi Price, who's our resident genius in ingredients, in all things, but the Fraten, Rabbi Price, I hope you're listening, is in all things, try, he has to make his progress reports on me, So, he went and tracked this polysorbate, the sorbitol, back to 7 different suppliers. This one got it from this one got it from this one, until it got to and now it wasn't all OU, it was different certifying agencies, until he tracked it back. There was somebody from a different kosher agency tells him there's a 1.5% chance. Don't forget, it's not baby formula. If it's chametz or kidneys, it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable to get OUP. There's a 1.5% chance. There's one small plant that this company has that makes sorbitol, and the starch they use is potato starch. It might come from there. Anyway, they should have bought the lottery ticket that day because it indeed came from that 1.5% chance. They were able to pass it. Now, at the same time, not every baby formula we find acceptable. There's going to be one more example. There's one baby formula which they don't want to use corn syrup. Instead, they use brown rice syrup. Brown rice syrup has a barley amylase. Basically, if you look at a carbohydrate, especially a rice chain, a rice which the DNA shows a bunch of repeating chains. So you have to break it down. The way you break it down is with an alpha amylase. Think of a brick wall. A brick wall, you take a sledgehammer to break it down, that's to liquefy it. That's going to be an alpha amylase. To actually work on each molecule and make it sweeter and bring up the DE, the dextrose equivalent, is going to use a beta amylase or a glucose amylase, depending on what you're trying to get. In this case, for brown rice syrup, they use a beta amylase. It comes from barley. I pose it to you, is that a minded? It's just a bottle. But a barley beta amylase breaking down a rice into a syrup, is that a minded or not? Minded has to be nikopulosai, like a cheese. You put the rennet into the cheese, I have a minded. I put yeast into an alcohol to make wine, that's a minded. Perhaps, and even that's a shayla on the Paiskim, and Kufiyad Al, the Trubis down, the Chubis Ben Yeshua. But in this case, it's data-minded. We're not sure. We respect the fact that different places might end up in different places, but in the OU we don't feel comfortable saying it's non-minded, and therefore that's not on our list of approved baby formulas for Pesach. So it's kedai to take a look at the list. Now, these are things these are not preparation for Pesach per se. These are things that we deal with the day after Pesach also. These are the entire year, anything which comes across, we look at these ingredients and we shots up, is it good for Pesach or not? We should be zeicher Rabbi Isai to finish Psochim in time for Pesach, and we should be zeicher to the bracha of Anoich Hashem and Azochem and Psochim.
Hi, I'm Shai Klein. I'm from Manchester, UK. About a year ago, I wasn't really thinking about doing that thing. I started seeing Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg's messages on LinkedIn about the new cycle and about all that app, and I got interested. Cut long story short, we started doing Chabura in our shul. Doing Daf Yomi Baruch Hashem now, we're 20 Daf into Eruvin, and it's fantastic. The way that I personally been using all that app is number one, I prepare the shiur once a week. We all take it in every day, 7 of us. We take it in every day getting shiur. I use it for preparation. I also use the app every day to help me do Chazar with the Zikr testimony by Rabbi Shloimy, which is absolutely fantastic. I encourage anyone to do that to join this program. And through that, Baruch Hashem, we're able, even with other commitments, to go through Shas, get through all these different singers, to see a chapter we've never been able to sing before. So a big thank you to Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg, OU, and all that.
I remember 15 years ago around, I was a student in Yeshiva Dr. Torah in Rockaway, and we had a guest, Magid Shir. Someone came into my classroom to give a guest lecture, trying to give us a strategy, how to memorize the different names of the Shisha Sidra Mishnah. We had a whole contest, and of course I won. And Rabbi Goldhar was here with us, came and taught us a method, a strategy, how to remember something. At the time I didn't give much thought to it, but who would have thought what would have come from Rabbi Goldhar's efforts? The project Zichru that he runs together with Barry Leibowitz is tremendous. The amount of people that are able to retain what they learn. One of the great challenges of so many people who are scared of learning Daf Yomi or learn Daf Yomi and feel bad is that they don't remember what they learned. They feel they're wasting their time. They don't feel they're really getting anything out of it. That's where Zichru is so important, so tremendous, that it helps people different strategies, how to memorize what they learned. They're able to remember which shach talks about what. We have with us, going to speak to us, Adam Silverstein, Sofer here in Lakewood, who's going to share with us how Zichru works and how it helps him, how it can really help everyone to be able to retain the information that they learn when they learn the Daf Yomi. Silverstein.
And Mazel Tov to the assignment. It's very exciting. סיום מסכת Eruvin, it's a big accomplishment. And thank you to begin to all of the shiurim. I personally use it all the time. For many different shiurim, not just on Eruvin, not just on Daf Yomi, any Masechta, any plays, fast shiur, slow shiur, different shiurim with grade. It's an unbelievable tool that Yeshua should give you koyach and Siyata D'Shmai to continue to be married with Torah. You should grow in Zion people, in Zion shiurim. It should be the schus, which should stand good for you and for the whole team and for the whole OU. So I'm really about Torah, and I thank you very much. I'm here to tell you about Zichru. Now, when Rosh called me a week and a half ago and asked me for this opportunity, I was so excited. Because anyone who talks to me for the last year talks to me about Zichru. Or actually, I talk to them about Zichru. Zichru is... And then over the week, I was thinking of how I'm going to present it, and I'm really at a loss for words. The only thing that I can tell you is Tamu U'u Kitab Hashem. At the beginning of every Masechta, Rabbi Goldhar, who's here, he came from State, he sent out a 14-day challenge. For himself, it was 14 days. For every Masechta, it's the beginning of the Masechta, the first paragraph of the Masechta, it's a challenge. Challenge yourself to be able to remember the first pair, and see how it goes. Just commit for 14 days. It's a couple of minutes a day. I'll explain to you how. And I wish I could give over to you the excitement of what Zivu can do for your life, for your learning. I'm going to try, but the main way is just give it a try. Hamul, jump in, give it a try. It's very, very easy, very simple. You'll thank me. So my story with Zivu is, I love Daf Yomi. As a working person, it is from speaking to many, many people, it is the best way to make sure that you learn every day and hold commitment. The pace is relentless. There's always a shiur is available. The schedule is strict, and you have to keep going, and you have to come and learn, and you can't fall behind. And there's people to talk to, and there's shiurim. Daf Yomi is tremendous. The one problem that many people have with Daf Yomi, which I think was a little bit alluded to in the previous drushes, is retention. It is very, very hard to remember what you learned. And as you move on through Masechta after Masechta and Daf after Daf, you start to feel like, what am I doing? I'm learning every day Daf and forgetting Daf. And you want to hear a horrible story? I walked into a shul in a neighborhood to remain unknown. There was a sign pushing people to learn Daf Yomi. The sign said, "Don't tell your children you never learned Shas. Tell them you forgot." Now, all of us are not like that. We're not going in the shade mikveh to forget. But what are you going to do? After time goes on, and you have a hard time retaining what you learned. So if you would have told me at the start of brachas that today I would be able to stand here and tell you 3 points that it says on every daf, in brachas, Shabbos, and Eruvin, I would say, maybe, if you spent the whole day learning, and chazering over and over again, hundreds of times, it's really possible in a few minutes a day. When I was originally starting, I had this frustration about learning and chazering. So I have a friend, he put himself through law school very successfully with a memory program. And the idea of this program is that we remember with associations. You ever have a conversation with somebody and he says something and reminds you of something else? Why remind you of that other thing? Because you make an association. One thing is attached to another. So the idea of this program that we brought was you can make everything into a picture and attach that picture to another picture. So then in your mind, you already have an association, and every time you think of one thing, it'll bring you to the next thing, and you can remember tremendous amounts of information. Wonderful. It really sounds great. So we're going to do it. We're going to memorize Shas. But the hard part is getting the information into the picture, picking which piece of information, remember every piece of information on every daf. So you have to take the piece of information and make it into a picture, and then create an association, and where do you put it in your mind, and everything. It was very hard to do. It took a lot of time. This same friend, right before we started brachas, he sent me an email. There's a new program in Zichru. And I looked at it and said, this is what we're waiting for. Someone, Rabbi Goldheim, who's here, is going to feed us every single day 3 points of the daf, pre-picked, organized, mesudar, clear, and he's going to attach to a simon for the daf, which I'll explain in a minute how that goes, and send it to us in a PDF, in a recording. It's email, it's WhatsApp. It's going to come to you every day on a silver platter. I was so excited. I sent it to Goldheim an email right away that I want to sign up. I did the sign-up email, and then I got the follow-up email, and I sent him a personal email. I'm so excited. This is just what I've been waiting for. And we became friends, and we went through this program, and it really works. And the program grew. And volunteers chipped in. There's someone who puts together pictures, say Picasso. He puts together like cut and paste pictures, and there's different reviews, and there's spreadsheets. And someone in Australia puts together a quiz spreadsheet that you could mix up the simon and test yourself. And then there's someone who writes the Yom Shema, he wishes to remain anonymous. He invested a lot of time and money in making professional illustrations, real professional illustrations. I think that they hope to be on track every single daf for Tzachim. Tell them the Eruvin will drop behind, which is also fine. And the whole Eruvin, I think, is almost finished. The whole Eruvin has professional, high quality, just like you would find in any of the many comic books that are around today, illustrations with the picture of the daf. So now, what what is this? How does it, first of all, how does it work? How does it, what happens is, there's a siman for each daf. Each daf has a defined set siman that will be that siman, the base of each daf. That means that base is a bias. It's usually phonetic. That base is a bias, that gimel is the domo, that lam dal is a ladder, sam is a smiley face, and every mesechta has the same siman. And every day you get a PDF, an email, a recording, however you like to listen to it, with 3 points that were picked out from the daf. So now you might ask, what does it help to have 3 points from the daf? What is it points? What does it mean points? Points is basically a sugya. Now, in the PDF and on the recording, Rabbi Goldhart gives out a little bit of an expanded idea of the sugya. Some of Flakes, the Rav and Shmuel, and a little more information. At the end of the day, what you remember is the name of the sinner, and you attach it to the daf. Okay. So let's expound a little bit. What does that mean? How does that help you learn? How does it help you know good? So you know everything. So besides for the fact that it's a lot of fun, and that you really feel like you're walking away with something. For example, Friday night I was sitting by a simple time, and he told me that he's besides from making a סיום on Eruvin, now he's making a סיום on Shabbos. Like Rabbi Shloimy mentioned, people have chayvus. He owed one blot from all the way to the beginning of Shabbos that he just finished now. So he said to him, could you tell me what the sugya on the blot was? Don't tell me the blot. So he said it was kaveres on the zayin. So he said kaveres on the ches. So he said, I just want to ask you, kaveres on the zayin. Tell me it's on the zayin. I said, if you're so confident, then maybe it's on the zayin or it's in the bottom and it goes to the ches. Don't tell me kaveres on the ches. He said, I learned 2 days ago kaveres on the zayin on the alf. He said, I'll bet you $1,000 it's on the ches. We got a gemara and it's on the ches. Because ches is challah. Kaveres is a basket, and in my mind I have a basket of challahs. There's nothing to talk about. It's just there. So besides for that, what does it help you? How does it change? You're learning, how does it change your life? If a yeshiva comes home from yeshiva, and you ask him, what are you learning? So he tells him himself. You say to him, what sugya are you learning? So he'll tell you the sugya. Hopefully, but maybe he'll get like a little scared right away, and intimidated, he'll freeze up for a second, but he'll tell you the sugya that he's learning. Good, that's what's supposed to happen. Did he tell you the details of the sugya? Did he tell you the Gemara, the Rashi? He told you the sugya. Okay, so you know something around it. He knows that the Gemara that he's learning now is talking about this sugya. If you ask him at the end of his mind, what sugyas did you learn? So most people, I don't expect that he should be able to list off a list of sugyas that he learned, and if he would, that would be pretty impressive. Meaning, if you remember where something is, you remember what it is. If you remember 3 points in every daf, where they are. If you remember that a certain sugya is on a certain daf, right? If you remember that the sugya of the hafsik ben aveikin that you're supposed to stop in creation between words that sound the same on Shabbos is on brachas daf tesvav, then you remember that there's such a sugya. So now we finished Eruvin now. Now you finished already brachas and you finished Shabbos. He said, what did you learn in Masechtas brachas? Well, brachas talked about Kriya Shema, talks about tefillah, talks about mezuzah. Anyone who did the zikr program and did it properly can tell you on every block 3 points that the Gemara spoke about on that block. That means that they can walk through Masechtas brachas and tell you. You want to know brachas spoke about? I'll tell you. You give me 15, 20 minutes, and I'll tell you 3 points on every block. And anyone can do it. It's really, really simple, and it doesn't take hours. It takes seconds. Not even minutes. In the beginning, it takes seconds. After you know the sentence, so you know that that base has 3 points. So all you have to do is base the lights, you think of the house, and your picture comes into your mind of the 3 points, and you're done. 10, 15 seconds, you know those 3 points. When you get the Daf Yomi, you keep chazering, and every day as you walk to shul, as you take off your towels and tefillin, as you're driving in the car, when you stop in traffic, you can chazer. Blast it and blast it, you can chazer more blast and more blast. And it's really, really amazing. You be amazed what you can do. Besides the Shalom Shmod, when your Rav says his Shabbos Agol, every Gemara that he mentions, you'll know exactly where it is. Because Rabbi Goldhart does an excellent job of picking out the main sugyas on each daf. So you'll know it. Yeah, and you walk away from a Masechta. Remember, obviously it's not every point because it's Daf Yomi. It's a quick pace. And still, when you walk away from a Masechta, you don't feel like, yeah, we were discussed somewhere, there was such a sugya. You know where it is, you know what it is, and it's really, really simple. Chazor goes in your mind. When you get to having 40, 50 lot, then Rabbi Goldberg will give you a coaching video of how to organize it and how to keep your Chazor simple and how to keep them organized to make sure you cover all the material. You can make chalusa with it. It is really, really a program that I encourage everyone to jump into. You can change your Daf Yomi experience. You can feel like you're moving along in Masechtas and taking them with you. When you say Hamdulillah, you mean I will really return to you. I will return to Masechtas Eruvin in the car on the way home. I will return to Masechtas Eruvin in the line that goes to you, and I can walk through it. So I encourage everyone to give it a try. Go, it's in all Daf. You can sign up to Zikr, you'll get the email and the WhatsApp, and you'll get a clear recording. If you like to read it, you can read it in English, you can read it in Hebrew, you can listen to the recording. I personally like to listen to the recording, but the Golda does an excellent job. And day by day by day, it was through Yom Tov, over Corona, he made a chasana, he never missed a day. The recording comes out, his clear explanation, his smiling voice, pleasant to listen to, and you will see. I encourage you, again, jump in, try it, take the 14-day challenge. It'll take a few minutes of your life over the next 2 weeks, and you'll see a tremendous, tremendous difference. The Eivshter should help all of us to continue with our learning and to be matzliach.
Once again, I want to wish a tremendous mazel tov to everyone who finished Eruvin and those who didn't finish Eruvin and participated in the same. Hopefully, it should be a chizuk, it should be an inspiration for you to start Psachim. To thank Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg again for all that he does for all Daf. Tremendous resource. You should sign up for the Psachim for Pesach. Finish the week of Pesach, finishing the Masechtas Psachim. Everyone should be matzliach, and thank you everyone for joining.
Okay, we're done. Break it down. By the way, oh, not a problem. So you'll let me know. You'll let me know when I'm on the way here that I should bring it, okay? I already had it. I want to see it. I can't do what it is. You want to do
I want to do the biggest mitzvah. Please take home whatever food you have. Whoever takes some food, be up there. Make sure Penny doesn't sing.